Hey guys, Northeast Survival and Preparedness. I want to talk today about the news, in particular the internet, for your information. And what I have here is a Wall Street Journal article, and I want to kind of show you some tips and tricks that you can use when you're reading online content to determine the validity of that content. And this here I chose as actually a good article because it shows a lot of positive qualities that a journalist should use when they're writing, and things to look for. Number one, of course, your source of the article is most important. What are you reading? Is it is it a blog? Is it a newspaper? Is it, someplace like the Associated Press or a big news outlet? Who are they? In this case, Wall Street Journal, reputable news outlet. It's not just some guy in the basement's blog. The next thing I always look for in an article is a byline. As you can see, this one here has a byline. If an article doesn't have a byline, often it's a reprinted article from another media outlet, like the Associated Press or Reuters or one of them. So it's very important to look at that and notice, is this a individually written article, or is it something that's been passed on? Very commonly nowadays, journalists just tend to take their information off the AP and kind of add a little bit to it, and basically just kind of cut and paste and put it on their websites. And it's just lazy journalism. They're not verifying the sources, they're not verifying the information, they're just literally cutting and pasting. So it's really important when you are reading an article, whether or not you believe that information, is this written by a person, or is this just another regurgitated article? And guys, it happens, and once you start looking for this, you're going to notice how common it is. Now, of course, as you read these articles, what you want to pay attention to is where this information is coming from. A good journalist should always tell you where their information is coming from. Here in this first article, it says law enforcement expanded the tools that hackers normally use, blah, 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 blah. All this information is given to you, but where do they get it from? And eventually, you learn through the article that this information comes from a former U.S. official. It doesn't say who this official is. It says, that they also access court documents and interviews with people involved with the program. Okay, so basically they're willing to print this, but they're not willing to tell you where they got their information. Those are things to be leery of. This came from court documents. It came from an unknown source. Look at this. If you can definitely say an article is more reputable if they're willing to put their sources out there. I mean, often, most places will contact and look for comment, and of course, FBI decline. Now, in this case, this article uses information, from court documents, from interviews, and a combination of different things, but it never really lists anyone by name. It never really lists anyone by any specific court documents, which court, federal, state, who knows. Information is very easy. You have to bear in mind that the news places do not have to tell you the truth. There is no law that says the media can't lie. And when you do get these things that says, court documents show, what court? If they're not giving you that information, odds are they're just regurgitating other information that someone else put out on the internet before them. So it's very important. Look at the information. Where did they obtain it from? Who is saying this? Here, they have some information. They actually provide you with a name and what someone, is doing as part of the article. Look at these things, because it's very often, especially someplace like the Associated Press will run a news release based on an anonymous source, and then other news agencies will run with the article and make it their own. And in the end, it's like a big game of telephone, and the truth gets really distorted. So it's very important to look at the sources of individual information. And also it's very important too, because nowadays journalism is just nowhere where it used to be. Oftentimes you will notice the more you read news, the more people cut and paste things out of other news articles and put them into their own. So it's really important to read through these and read the entire article, because lots of times you will see at the very bottom of an article, in this one it doesn't say that, but lots of times at the bottom of an article it'll say an anonymous source says, or or whatever, and you want to read that and make sure you're getting the entirety of the article and finding out where this journalist got their information from, and are they willing to share where they got it from. And the less likely they are to share it, the more likely that information is just something that's been regurgitated out into the news media. So I was hoping to share that with you guys and just kind of show you, and this same applies for the news on TV. When you're sitting there and the news says, oh, there's been a threat of a terrorist attack, and they're not willing to say who is saying that, oftentimes they're really just spreading around rumors, and it really can go to hurt. And anytime, especially after like the Boston marathon bombing, you saw how much information they were putting out there when they really didn't have sources. And then you would, one media place would air something that they got from an anonymous source, then the other, stations would pick it up, and you see a lot of that. And it's really, if they're not willing to give you the source of the information, oftentimes it's better to hold back your judgment and wait to see exactly what it says. But the more carefully you read any article, the more you're going to find and the more you're going to see that a lot of information is, like I said, just very regurgitated, and that it's not individually written. A good article that's written with individual and unique content will give you a source, will give you the information where they got it. But the more you look, the more you will see that journalism nowadays, especially online, is mostly cut and paste. So hopefully that will help you out when you're trying to find the information that you want to trust out there. Take a look at these articles, read into them, find that byline. Who wrote this? Where is the information coming from? Who are you reading? Because there's a lot of people out there just putting out horrible, bad information.